You might be surprised to know this, but early Christians, we know what they did in their worship because people wrote letters about it. Some of their enemies wrote letters as well when the Romans would put spies in there. And they found that the worship consisted of songs, some readings, and then sharing of stories about Jesus, and also sharing their needs and sharing what they can do for each other and for their communities. So it was not a sermon-centered worship. And I hear many of you screaming, let's get back to that. Fair enough. But right now, the topic today is compassion and generosity. But I don't really want to say too much. What I will say is this. The shortest biography of Jesus is found in Acts 10:38. He went about doing good. Now, you can only do that if you go about with your eyes open and with your heart open. That's really hard to do both. It really is. But it can be done with the power of the Holy Spirit. Where Christians have gone in history, and there's no other way to put this, where some religions have gone in history, there has been brutality and death. Where Christians have gone, yes, they have made errors in these matters, but in every case, infanticide and child abandonment drops dramatically. Women are given rights and no longer treated as property. Gladiatorial spectacles are ended. Crucifixion of criminals ended when Christians entered an area. Brutal treatment of slaves was outlawed by law, and slaves being freed was done by Christians. There's something in Christian doctrine which changes something in the culture at large, and one of those things has got to be compassion. Compassion's fellow feeling, but it's even more. 1 Peter 3:8, we could go there. Hebrews chapter 12 through 17, we could go there. We are commanded to feel for the other, to put our brains inside their hearts and to feel what they're feeling, and then to walk with them. Interestingly enough, in the gifts that we are told we are given in Romans 12 and 1 Corinthians 12 and elsewhere, these gifts that God gives us, judgment is never one of the gifts. Never. Mercy is, kindness is, and goodness, and all these things. And in fact, you look at the orchard of God's grace, the sermon series we just started last week, and you will not find anything to do with judgment or with disciplining others or the like. It's all about love, joy, peace, kindness, goodness, those things. And Philippians does the same as Galatians. It'll give different lists, but you never find the judgment there. That's hard for us because everybody in the world wants you to pick a side and make a noise, where God sent his Son to walk among us and just do good and then continue to walk on. If our hearts flow through our hands, it'll work. Rust can be a witness against us. We have too many things. We can't even use what we have. We need to downsize. My wife and I have helped my parents downsize a couple of times before each of them passed. And each time we were left with things that we thought, why was this kept? This could have been shared earlier. And it's made us do really a continual process of downsizing in our life. We've got a long way to go, because the thing about us is that human beings, we tend to fill the space we inhabit. And even though the children are gone, the space is full. And so we need to start saying, what are we not using? What can we give? As long as it's in good shape. Don't give away junk to God. Give away the good stuff to God. Changing our hearts is to change our lives. Ezekiel 36:26, God says, I will put a new heart in you, a heart of flesh. It was a bit of a kick to the people of Israel that their hearts were stony and flinty, but now they needed a heart of flesh, and God would do that. And God always goes first. Psalm 103, he knows who we are but dust. So he acts to protect us. He won't let anything come against us which is greater than we can withstand. He feels alongside of us. Little known book, but interesting passage, Zechariah 2 and verse 8. He feels along with us. He acts on our behalf when he sent his Son. And when his Son arrived, what did his Son do? Acts of compassion, acts of love, grace, kindness, but not judgment. People ask me my opinion about churches and theologies and politics, rarely get a straight answer because my opinions do not matter. And in fact, I don't have opinions on a lot of it. My focus is on that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God. That's all we've got. We follow him. When Jesus healed the deaf man, I love Graceworks' model because it really fits with the way Jesus did things. The deaf man needs help. Jesus, Mark chapter 7, pulls him aside, gives him dignity. Doesn't make a show of it. Doesn't say, all right, everybody watch. You're going to be amazed at this and believe in me now. No, there was a man with a need. He pulled the man aside, let him have dignity to express his need, and then he acted on that feeling. He did the same with the blind man who cried, interrupting church service because Jesus is teaching along the way, and he cries from the side, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus, they all tell him to be quiet. Don't bother the rabbi. Jesus stops them and doesn't pull the blind man into his circle, but rather leaves his circle and goes to the blind man and stands in front of him in one of the most remarkable scenes in all of the Gospels. You have the Son of God, the creator of the universe, standing in front of a blind beggar with no standing whatsoever in the world. And Jesus says, what would you like for me to do for you? He lets, in Graceworks' words, the beggar self-select what he wants from God. And Jesus gives him his sight. He says, Lord, if I could see. Jesus gives him his sight and then walks on. He doesn't do the big show. He doesn't get the publicity. He doesn't do the fancy stage and the expensive suit and the nice lighting and the dancing around and saying, look at this, and a cheering crowd. He doesn't do any of that. Just does good and quietly moves on. We're calling you to do the same thing. It might be a very small thing, holding a door for a woman who's trying to balance a toddler, a baby, and a cart. You can do that, and you can smile, and you can make eye contact and tell her to have a blessed day. You can do that. Now, here in the South, people say that all the time, but in the North, you'll shock people. They'll remember you. And there'll be other places, whenever I say that back in Britain, they're pretty sure I might be in a cult. But it's worth shocking people out of the moment just to say there's a human contact here that cares about you and your day. And I'll stop and open the door for you. Paul tells us we are to continue the feeling of Christ as we move forward. 2 Corinthians chapter 11 and verse 29. And then we come to generosity. Generosity is the action part of compassion many times. Compassion has so many other things. An arm around the shoulders, the opening of the door, the taking of flowers, which I think is incredibly cool. And Trader Joe's is, if you don't know what Trader Joe's is, I'm sorry, you have missed out in life. But their flowers are cheap and they last forever. I don't know how they do this, but it's great. I own no stock in Trader Joe's. The action part of compassion is the verb that follows your faith. Jesus says, doesn't have to be much. Please understand, we know a lot of our viewers are in poverty. They're on fixed income. We know a lot of them are in difficult situations. We have never pushed you for money, ever. We're not going to. We've never put a price or a paywall up. We're not going to. We've never copyrighted anything we've ever written or done. We're not going to. But Jesus said, it can just be a cup of cool water. If you give that cup of cool water in his name, he will never forget it. He promised that. And Matthew 25, he shows he kept his promise. And we'll keep his promise for you. So do a survey this week. Simple little job for you. Do a survey this week of your home and your goods. Are you using it? Do you need it? Is it in good shape? Something which is nice that could be given away without shame on your part or upon the recipient's part. And maybe rethink a word. In our society, in the West now, to call somebody a snowflake is an insult because everything hurts them and everything. But I want you to think of snowflakes for a moment. We are told that there are no two snowflakes alike, but nobody's checking, and that's ridiculous. Plus, we actually have found snowflakes that are alike, so let that one go. But I'm aware. I remember when I was a kid and it would start to snow, we'd get very excited because we assumed, therefore, school would be closed and heaven would descend. But we would run and try to grab a snowflake. And when you try to grab a snowflake and you open your hand, it's gone. That's so fragile. But if you put enough snowflakes together, they'll stop a bulldozer. I've seen it. Remember, we lived in Michigan. You get them together, it changes everything. Think about a bunny. We have bunnies in our neighborhood. I like them. Some of the neighbors hate them. They're wrong. If they want to eat our vegetables, fine. They're God's little bunnies. If you open the door and you see a bunny there, you're going to go, oh, it's a bunny. But if you open the door and see 500,000 bunnies, you'll scream bunnies and slam the door. You may not have much, and I get that. I really do. I grew up in poverty. I understand it. But you get enough of us together, there can be a Graceworks, a One Generation Away, a Lifeline, and so many others. Tell us your stories. info@oursafeharbor.com. But for now, let's stick together. Let's see the miracles that God will do right in front of our eyes when we just walk like Jesus. We'll talk more later.